सत श्री अकाल. मेरा नाम still Huntress है, and that's all the Punjabi I have right now. If you want to follow my attempts to my ongoing quest to learn Punjabi, I am vlogging my progress on this channel, so watch for those. Today I think I'm going to call this series Seeking Sikhi. What do you think about that? I think so. These are sort of musings about what my experiences are like as a new Sikh and what subjects I'm struggling with and musing about and thinking about and what issues are points of transition for me. Let's call it that. So today I'm going to talk about my realigning my worldview to the Sikhi worldview, because I think that's an important thing when you embrace a new faith, is understanding how that faith, God and the gurus, are telling us what the world is like and what the universe is like. And so I can align myself with that because obviously I've become a Sikh because I have accepted the gurus as without flaw, and I suppose that doesn't go without saying. There are different ways to be a Sikh, so I should say that I accept the 10 gurus in human form and the 11th and final guru, scripture and the Panth, as perfect and without flaw. I believe that the gurus had perfect vision of the past, present, and future and spoke with the authority and the knowledge of God when they spoke. So I accept that the guru, how the guru conveys to us what the universe is what it is. And as a former pagan, Western neo-pagan, my concept of the universe was something that I had come up with as an individual. And obviously that's going to be subject to flaw. I'm just a person. I'm not divinely gifted in any way. So my previous concept of how the universe is certainly not to be given any kind of authority. It's just habitual, right? And that's the challenge, is changing old habits and realigning myself with how the gurus have taught us that God and the universe are. So within Sikhi, we're taught that the universe is God, that everything is made of the same stuff, which scientifically we know that the stars and the cosmos and my lovely coffee cup here, pardon me if I sip my coffee, my coffee cup, my body, my brain, everything are made of electrons. And so that is God's body. This is a posture that God is holding, like being cross-legged, you know? And that God's spirit is what gives us all life. So, so my concept of the universe as a pagan was that God, that the divine creator, the one, permeated all things, but that those things were separate from the creation being. And so it's something that I have to continually remind myself, is that God isn't just present, God is everything. And it helps me visualizing like the Star Trek Next Generation holodeck, that everything is fake, everything is just a force field, just an energy field creating the illusion of a table or of a person or of the sky or whatever, and that it isn't real. Another one would be that moment at the end of the first Matrix movie when Neo sees the Matrix and he looks around the hallway and everything is sort of numbers and binary code and everything. That's something that I still have to continually sort of remind myself, that I don't exist per se, that the only thing keeping me separate from God is my own concept of myself as a separate being, and that all of Sikhi is about dissolving that. Creating the kind of person through seva, through obedience to the gurus, to mold my mindset into the kind of person that can allow that bubble of home to dissolve. And so that's an important thing that is a distinction, because as a pagan, of course, there were beings everywhere. And that comes to my second issue of the Sikhi worldview, is this concept that I had as a pagan, that every body of water has some kind of a water nymph in it. Every tree has a tree spirit. Every, meadow has a special entity that gives that life. That was my pagan worldview. That was my pagan concept. And the pantheons of gods, the Egyptian pantheon, the Greek pantheon, all of these different pantheons, the Celtic, and then the newer gods, like the newer Wicca gods, that are brought into being by enough people believing in them that they become an entity that exists. So, in other words, worshipping a god that man created through man's creation, will to create, is something that Bani tells us within Sikh scripture that these beings exist. They're part of God's creation. At no point, nowhere in Bani does it say that all of these different gods and goddesses, and as they're referred to, Devi Devde, are fictitious. They are all good. They're all good or evil or neutral or whatever they are. They all have their natures, but they're all real, but they're part of God's creation. Just like zebras and fleas and carrots and gazelles and everything. They are beings that exist partially in this world, partially on another plane. And Bani is very clear that there are thousands and thousands of universes, and that they're all part of God's creation. We have to not think small. I think we have a tendency to think, well, God made this. And we forget that God could have made it all. God did made it up. God is it all. God didn't make it as a thing that then he put on his coffee table. God assumed the posture that is the universe. It's kind of like, that children's joke. What part of your body disappears when you stand up? And the answer is your lap. So in other words, there's you're holding that posture. You have a lap that people can sit in your lap, and you could put something in your lap. But when you stand up, the lap is gone. But you haven't been injured. You haven't been nothing about your body has changed. And it's the same. My concept is that way with God's creation, is that the universe is a posture that God is holding, and that when God changes posture, this universe will cease to be. But nothing about God will be injured or modified or changed. God is eternal and unchanging. But that's the thing, is knowing that all of the gods and the beings and the nymphs and the spirits and the entities that I venerated or worshipped or respected, depending on what they were, as a pagan, I'm still acknowledging them as real. I'm just not worshipping them anymore. I'm now regarding them as other beings and that have abilities that I don't have. An eagle can see better than me. A bloodhound can smell better than me. Other entities have abilities that I don't have. That doesn't mean I'm going to worship them. I'm going to worship the creation being that is all things, because those beings are just as much not really real as I am. I don't actually exist. It is my concept, my home, my self-concept that I am a separate entity that makes me separate from God. And they're the same way. All of creation is the same way. This is what I have to get into my head, is that they're no more or less real than I am. And the fact that they are subject to jealousy, subject to happiness, subject to despair, subject to petulance, means that they are not creation being. They are made of the body of the creation being, just as my coffee cup is, but they are not God any more than my coffee cup is not God. So my fingernail is part of me, but my fingernail is not me. It can't go to work in my place, and do my job. So that's a big thing for me, because when I go into a place and say, get the heebie-jeebies, I get a little bit nervous. I think, there's like a weird entity here maybe, there's beings here. My instinct is to deal with that being, and I have to remember that I'm not dealing with these beings. It's like, I'm going to speak to your manager. I'm deferring to Guru. I'm calling on God. I'm calling on Vaheguru to deal with this situation. And it's like, I'm not talking to the employees. I'm talking to the owner of the store. And that has come up for me with small things. Like, there have been a couple of different occasions where I've lost my Claddagh ring, and when I was a pagan, and I found it using tarot. I used my tarot cards and appealed to what I referred to as the sentient universe, which I now realize is God, and appealed to the sentient universe to give me information about where my ring was and how to find it, and every single time it led me directly to my ring. And so it was a reliable way of just haul out my deck, go through it, and it will tell me where my ring is. Now if I lose something, I don't feel that it's right for me to consult the tarot, because even if the argument can be made that I am still talking to Vaheguru, and that this is just a different method of talking to Vaheguru, I have to remember that in my own head, that there's a connection between tarot and my old life. And if for no other reason that psychologically I have to draw a line and say that I have a new life now, and that was my old way of doing things. I think whether or not objectively it is a good thing or a bad thing within Sikhi, I think for me, I have to acknowledge that it's not wise. And I do think that if you are, there's a balance there when you're trying to get rid of your home. You're trying to defer all of your decisions and judgment to Guru and Vaheguru, if it's something important. Then to what degree do you say, well, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to solve this problem myself. Of course, Vaheguru doesn't want you to be an automaton. Vaheguru doesn't want you to be a robot. Sikhi is a thinking person's religion. You're taught how to solve problems, how to look at problems with compassion, with respect, with honor to Vaheguru's plan, and then make your decision, make a call, a judgment call for that situation. But at the same time, what I'm leaving going from paganism to Sikhi is that paganism is 100%, at least my practice was, lots of different ways to be a pagan. My practice was 100% self-referencing. It was, what do I feel I should worship? How should I worship? What color candle do I think I should light for this situation? And what stones should I do? You know what? I found that ritual really nice, but I think it needs more bell ringing. I think it needs more incense. Next time I'm going to do more incense. I'm just making stuff up. And that was why I did it. I did it because I could follow my heart. And at that time, and for those 35 years of my life, that seemed like the best thing because it could grow with me, it could evolve with me, and I must say that what I discovered about myself as a pagan gave me the trust in my own judgment that when I did meet, the Guru came to me in a dream, which is why I converted to Sikhi, and I woke up just bawling. It was a big deal, and I trusted that experience. I knew that was not just a dream. I knew I had communicated with an entity, with a being, with something real. And my experiences as a pagan gave me that gift. But that's my past, and I'm moving forward. And it's a tough thing to know these beings are here and that they exist. And Vaheguru seems so big, and the Guru seems so big, that when I lose a ring, I don't want to call in the Gurus and say, show me where my ring is, you know? My mother's an Anglican, and she'll often appeal to the angels, because they're sort of gophers. They're kind of like attendants, and that's kind of their job, is to just do all the little things. And I don't really feel that there's an entity in Sikhi where I can just sort of go, I don't want to bother the big guy. And I'm sure the gurus have stuff to do. I'm just looking for my ring. Can somebody help me? And I don't know if it's... I don't know if, as a devoted Sikh, I would appeal to God to help me find my ring, because no thing is too small. What is it the Christians say? His eye is on the sparrow, right? Even the smallest thing, you can ask God about it. But just God seems so big, and my problem so small. It's difficult because the methods that I use, like tarot or like divination or crystals, that normally I would use that tool to just do it myself. I've drawn a line under that for myself to say that's not my path anymore. And if I start doing that again, it's going to be a slippery slope. I know it is. I know myself. It's one of the reasons why I keep looking for turban fabric and thinking I'm going to get it, and then in the end I stick with scarves, because I know me. And having special fabric that's only for turbans, I'm going to end up folding it a special number of times and maybe putting incense on it and having a special place for it. And it's going to slip into, this is magic fabric, and it's the magic cloth. And if I put it on my head only during prayer, it's going to get charged up with God energy. And I know I'll slide back there. I'm just too new at Sikhi. And I can feel myself doing that. The first time I almost talked myself into buying turban fabric, I was like, oh, and then I'll keep it. No, I don't want to keep it there. I'll set aside a special place for it. And then and yeah, it became a thing. And so now I only use scarves for my turbans right now, and I make a point that none of my scarves are just for turbans. I've worn this scarf as a turban today. I will make a point the next time I wear it to just wear it around my neck casually, to make sure I understand that it's not magic. When it's on my head, it's a turban. When I pick it up for the day and say, this is my turban for the day, then I treat that piece of fabric with respect. It doesn't touch the floor. And once I unwrap it at the end of the day and hang it, now it's just a scarf again. And I have to do that to make sure I break up this idea that I have in my head that I've got like magic tools that have magic energy, and the more I use them, the more magically charged they'll be, and then I can carry them around like a talisman, and then bad things won't happen to me. That's my old life. So this is the challenge that I'm having right now, is reminding myself that these beings can be real, but I don't deal with them directly. If I think there's something in my room, then I sing Simran. Then I appeal to Vaheguru. I don't deal with that entity directly because I don't want to develop that relationship. And breaking myself of the idea that God and the gurus are too big and too busy for my small problems, because that's a path of temptation to start going back to my old ways of tarot and crystals and astrology or whatever, of solving those problems. And because they're small problems and I can deal with it myself. I know this little technique, and I do know these techniques and they do work, but that's shaping my thought patterns and shaping my brain down a path that is not leading me to mukti. It's not leading me to become the kind of person that can shed my home and merge with God. It's going down the path of individuality. So that's my wrestling musings, thoughts on my ongoing transition to a Sikhi worldview. And if you have any tips or pointers or solutions to help me with that, feel free to put a comment below. And I will see you next time. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.